Kelly's Kitchen. Let me teach you a recipe and also make you feel really good about yourself.
Hey there, and welcome to episode 4 of Kelly's Kitchen. I can't believe this is my 4th episode. This is the most dedicated I've ever been to any project, so props to me. I have decided to go back in time by creating today my first dish I have ever made. So today we are going to be making my first ever original recipe, my vegetable stir fry. This recipe is going to be a little bit more simple than the other ones that I've made, but hey, who doesn't like simple, right? So the main ingredients you need for this recipe include 1 pack of baby spinach, fresh, a big bundle of fresh asparagus, white mushrooms, half of a yellow onion, fresh garlic, 2 scallion bulbs, balsamic vinegar, and soy sauce. And our topic for today will be the importance of and accepting the past. So let's get started. So let's start off by chopping up our onion. Just make sure you take a whole half of a yellow onion, chop it up, dice it up into little pieces. And for our topic of talking about accepting the past, I've decided to play my own personal electro swing playlist. Now for any of you who don't know what electro swing is, it's actually a genre of music that I discovered a few months ago, and I'm obsessed. It's pretty awesome. Look it up if you've never listened to it. Seriously, I feel like I'm just getting worse at chopping up onions lately because my eyes are just really sensitive. I'm fine. I'm fine. Okay, so once we are done with our onion, we are gonna work on our mushrooms. We want 1.5 cups, so 1.5 of these. So the first thing we're gonna do is de-stem them. So you just kind of want to rip out this part. Should have come out pretty easily. Get yourself a little bowl and just throw the stems out. It's almost like a toy, like it just pops right out. And once we are done de-stemming our mushrooms, we are going to chop them up into little diced pieces like so. So I'll usually break a mushroom cap in half and then cut it into thirds like this, and then chop it one more time down the side. This recipe was one of the first things I ever did, and honestly, I was just going through my fridge and just trying to think of something to do for dinner when I was at college. So once we're done with that, we're gonna put our mushrooms with our chopped onion on the plate, put it to the side, and we're gonna chop up our 2 scallion bulbs. Or you could be a scallion reindeer first. Please don't hit me with your car. I wonder if anyone's actually done this before. And then we're gonna cut down the scallion, like so. Alright, so now it's time for the asparagus. I love asparagus. It is my favorite. And the best thing about preparing asparagus is that you don't have to cut it. I usually get the thin, more stringy asparagus. They're easier to work with and they don't take as long to cook down. All we're gonna do is rip off the ends of our asparagus like this and add them to our veggie plate. Honestly, it's like oddly satisfying. Let's see if I can do 3 of them at once. Oh, champion! This is gonna take me a little while, but it's really fun, so I don't really mind. Okay, so once we are done detaching the ends of our asparagus, we're gonna put it on the plate with our mushrooms and yellow onion and set that off to the side. Okay, so now it is time for our garlic. So all you gotta do, this is fun, is just break off 2 decent sized cloves, like this. We're going to chop off the little ends, and then we're just gonna peel off this outer layer. We want this white part on the outside to be totally peeled off. So once we have our 2 garlic cloves peeled, we are going to do the most satisfying part of preparing this dish. We're gonna take our mincer. The first time I used one, I was a little bit in awe. I was like, I can't believe something so convenient exists. If you don't have a garlic clove mincer, you can take a knife. Make sure it's a good cooking knife like this one. And you're just gonna dice it into really fine pieces. But I have one, so I'm gonna use it. Now watch how super easy and fun this is. You just put it in the hole, and then we're gonna flip it over like this and use all of your might and squish it down. And all of the part of the garlic clove that you really want is gonna come out the bottom. And then what I usually do is I just take my knife and scrape it off. So once again, put it in, flip the top. Once we have our garlic minced, we're gonna keep it on our cutting board and put it off to the side with our veggies. So now it is time for our marinade. So we're going to take a lemon wedge. I cut like about 1/3 of a lemon, and we're going to do 1/2 tablespoon. Put that directly into a small bowl. Then we're gonna do 3 tablespoons of balsamic vinaigrette. Balsamic was the first thing I ever used to make my veggies taste amazing. I was obsessed with it. It was bad. I was very unadventurous. Right, Zoe? I don't know what she's looking at. She's like really intense over there. It's making me nervous. Anyway, we are going to do 3 tablespoons of balsamic vinaigrette. So just do 3 of those and put them right into the bowl. Then we are going to do 1 tablespoon of soy sauce. I don't know why I always say soy sauce like that. I feel like maybe because it makes me think of sushi, and I love sushi. And lastly, a half a tablespoon of olive oil. Just whisk it up a little bit, put it to the side, and we're gonna add it to our dish. All right, this lighting is horrible. Time to move over to our stove. So the first and only thing we're going to deal with is our asparagus. I have some olive oil in the pan. I'm gonna kind of swish it around so it hits the whole pan. I have the stove turned up to medium-high, so about a 6. We'll take all of our asparagus and just put it on there to simmer. Make sure most of the asparagus gets coated with the olive oil. So we're gonna let it sit until it starts to slightly wilt and become soft, and let's take a little break. So how do we go about looking at our past in a positive way that can help us move on and sort of look at things in a more positive direction? I, for one, admit that there's been many times where I've obsessed over my past and different points in my life, and I kind of find my mind running wild with it sometimes. I think everyone does this. I think you have done this. I think even if I don't know who you are, you've done this. I mentioned this in an older video that I did before, but I really feel like every year from maybe age 18 through my early 20s, I honestly feel like I've been a different version of myself each year. Just the way that I looked at everything was completely different from year to year. All of that has to do with experience. And even if they're good or bad experiences, think about this. How cool is it that we are constantly evolving and changing as creatures? As human beings, our brains are so complex that we can take things from our lives, absorb them, and each year or each experience adds on another piece to the puzzle. So we're constantly growing, and by the time we're full-grown adults, we have so much experience and knowledge that the way we look at things is going to be way more complex than the way that we looked at things from when we were teenagers or even kids. But what I'm getting at is you don't have to constantly reinvent yourself. You could take every version of yourself and expand into what you become. And that's a really cool, beautiful thing. I admit that sometimes I wish I could go back in time, and I've had moments where I've thought, wow, was I in the peak of my life back when I was this person? The bottom line is you're in control of your own happiness. It's easy to hold on to the past and look at it in a negative way because you know it's something that you can't really get back. And let's admit that that's scary. As humans, we want to have control. We want to be able to control our destinies. We don't like the idea that we made a choice, we can't go back and fix it. But here's the way to look at it in a positive light. You today have more understanding of yourself than you ever have in your entire life. That is some power right there. We have bad memories. Yeah, we have bad experiences. Yeah, we have parts of our life we wish we could go back to, and we have parts of our life that we wish we could forget. But why should we feel that we need to forget any of these parts? The good and the bad all add up into making us who we are anyway. To be able to respect that and understand how important both good and bad, positive and negative experiences is important in general. Because without the bad, you don't learn. And without the good, you don't really realize what the right steps were that you took. We could think about our pasts, but think of them in a way that is really important in shaping who we end up becoming. So instead of dwelling on the past, instead of wishing you could do things over, realize how cool it is that you've had all of those experiences and you've gone through joy, pain, mistakes, embarrassment. Without those things, you don't really learn and you don't grow. Without them, who knows where you would be right now? You might not even be in the same spot. If life didn't have those exciting little twists and turns, good or bad, how boring would it be? We'd all be robots. See how it's forming a bit of a ring around the pan because it's starting to get soft? This is what we want. We want it just forming the circle but not completely welted. So once the asparagus gets like this, we are going to turn off the stove and get ready to add the other veggies. And finally, we're going to add our other veggies. So just pour them on top, scoop them on top, pour. I'm sure you've noticed that the only thing we don't have on here yet is our baby spinach. That is because spinach wilts very fast, so we're not gonna add that until the very end. Before we put on our marinade, let's add a tiny bit more olive oil. And we're going to let these mushrooms and onions sit in here for about, give it 3 minutes. Once these have wilted together a little bit and we've timed it for 3 minutes, we're going to add half of our marinade. So just pour half of the bowl out. And then we're going to dump on top our baby spinach. Now this seems like a lot, so I would do half of it first and let it all kind of wilt down. Look at that, it's like it was never there. Now we are going to add the rest of our baby spinach on top. and not make a mess on the stove. I am making such a mess. This is like very embarrassing. I don't think any of my videos have been smooth so far, so that's okay. So once you start noticing the rest of the spinach starting to wilt a little bit and behave itself, we're going to add the rest of our marinade and just pour it over top. And now the fun part, we are going to add our garlic. Just kind of scoop it on top. That garlic smells amazing. And now we are going to turn it down to about like a medium low. And the first time I made this, I didn't measure anything, so we're not going to either. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some oregano, just sprinkle it onto your heart's delight, a little bit of cumin, some pepper, and lastly some salt. You can make it as mild or flavorful as you choose. So I've turned it on low, and this is what we want. Look at how that all baked down. So we've got the asparagus nice and soft, the spinach is wilted, and this is the final consistency. Okay, so here is the finished product. My original veggie stir fry with asparagus, mushrooms, and yellow onion. Or I live in college and I have random veggies in the fridge and I don't know what to cook for myself stir fry. Or I'm trying to be healthy but I've never cooked before, let me just experiment stir fry. Whatever you want to call it. This definitely feeds a good like 6 people. There's probably like 5 servings in here, so it's awesome. And this is the dish that I've made for friends who have claimed that they hate vegetables, and after I've made it, they liked vegetables, so I would highly suggest trying it out. Thanks for hanging out again today, and remember that looking back in your past, there's nothing wrong with that, but remember, it makes you who you are today, and that is what matters. I will see you next time on Kelly's Kitchen.